Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. This from a guy, sounds like he's probably 33, 34 years old. And he's going to share his story about events that happened back in 2009. So we're looking at about 14 years ago, when he was only 19 or 20 years old. And his story is going to show you exactly why it's so important that all guys, not most guys, all guys are familiar with R-pill content. Because you're going to see he really dodged a big one with a gal he got involved with back then. And that how it turns out could have been so different. You're going to see how it's so important, why guys know the RP content, that they are aware of red flags. What types of red flags? The type of BS that gals can pull. How gals are not always the sweet angels that they're portrayed to be in the movies and television and all that, or the way your mom is trying to convince you that girls are. Okay? If he was aware of this, a lot of this stuff would have happened. And this woman he gets involved with, holy crap. And in the end, the guy ends up all right and all that, but major bullet was dodged. I'm just going to leave it like that. So, starts off, he says here, "Hey SSM, I love what you're doing and thought my story may help some younger guys out there. At the time of this event, there wasn't much RP content. This is in 2009. And I only dodged a big one due to complete luck. If I had stuff like your videos, I would have saved myself a lot of drama. But makes for a good story nonetheless. Anyway, I'll get right in and keep it as brief as I can. Starts off a bit slow, but you won't believe why her plans failed. No names needed." See? He wish he had that stuff back then. I wish I had that stuff back then. I'd learned the hard way. But I took my bad experiences, and I now started a show, and I spread the wisdom to the younger guys. Hopefully, they won't make the mistake I made, as well as the older guys out there that didn't have this type of content. When I was 19 or 20, I met a girl who was in her late 20s. Absolutely beautiful. And as I got to know her, she seemed like the perfect woman for me. Smack. You know why. She started to come over a few times a week and would spend a couple of days at my house. We'd play games, talk, and have lots of sex. Well, there's the dream come true for your average 19 or 20-year-old back then. Because your average 19 or 20-year-old now is like, whoopee, I'd rather go rock climbing with my bros. But back then, 19, 20 years old, a woman in her late 20s who's beautiful, all she wants to do is come over and play games and hook up a couple days a week, no strings attached. Hey, wonderful. Problem is, there's a lot of red flags there. Why is a late 20s woman hooking up with a dude who's still technically a teenager and interested in the sex with nothing in return? Something's up. He says here she couldn't drive, so she had a friend drop her off a lot of the time. And this guy seemed really nice too. I met him out of the front door on some occasions. She didn't drive. Unless she lives in the city, what the hell's wrong with her? I thought the woman was basically the best thing that ever happened to me, and I was a complete idiot when I came to know how I treated her. Basically, the nice guy approach. He says, "Forgive me, I was young and my father ran out at a young age. I had nobody to teach me these things." That is always the common story. This is why so many young guys need a masculine role model to help guide them in life. But sadly, so many young guys don't have this nowadays. That's why so many young men out there are wandering aimlessly in the world. They're raised by single mamas, and those single mamas, as much as they may try, the good ones, it's not the same. They can provide for their kid, they can love him, but the boy needs a father or a masculine role model, grandpa, uncle. Anyway, after about 6 months of this, things started to not really line up. She never wanted to actually go anywhere with me. She only wanted to stay indoors, play games, and have sex. Mind you, at 19 years old, this didn't bother me at all. It wouldn't bother me either. Also, while she wasn't in contact with me, contact was a bit here and there. She would either be texting me all night, or then there would be days of radio silence. I recall several nights of concern when she would stop responding mid-conversation and not reply for 3 or 4 days. Well, anybody who hears this knows darn well she's got a boyfriend or a husband. That's why she comes over a couple days a week, hooks up, won't go anywhere with you. You don't hear from her for a while, then you hear from her a lot. That sudden cutting off in communication, she's got another guy. But he didn't know this back then. Or he turned a blind eye. She wrote me letters and things and spoke of the future of the relationship, etc. So to my knowledge, it was a serious thing. So here's where I started to get my smacks. She told me that she was allergic to latex, but on the pill. Stupid me, 19, really didn't understand the risks I placed on myself for believing a word of this woman said. Not once did I use a condom while sleeping with this woman. Smack! Dude, you dodged a big one. You could have caught something. She could have gotten pregnant just to feel good. Now, I've been there. One of the biggest scares of my life when I was about your age. I thought I got my girlfriend pregnant because late one night, I was in the mood to hook up. Her parents went to bed. The sisters and brothers went to bed too. We were on the couch. This is summer of 98. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and she was getting frisky, and I was in the mood. I was 20 years old. Didn't have protection. No problem. I'll pull out. Guess what? Next week, she tells me I'm late. I'm thinking, I'm fucked. Next day, her monthly friend still didn't arrive. 2 days later, no friend. 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6. Finally, on the 7th day, praise the Lord, her monthly friend arrived, and from that moment on, I always wore protection. You dodged a big one, so did I. You always wear protection. For over 6 months, often several times a day, I was risking all on this woman I barely knew anything about. Like we never actually gone anywhere together. She had told me BS about why I couldn't ever go to her house, but I can't remember the details now. She apparently worked in a neighboring city and used that as an excuse after periods of silence. Just a lot of red flags that stupid me didn't think to look into. Until one day she blocked me on everything and completely vanished without a word. Yep. And I gotta wonder if younger you wanted to know these things. But a lot of guys, like I said, would be like, hey, hot woman wants to hook up all the time, all that, great. But no. Something's seriously up with this gal. She's talking about future relationships and all that, but can't. I'm allergic to latex. She's got a guy. For whatever reason, she obviously wants to get pregnant. At the time, I was devastated. I thought for sure she was the one for me. Smack. Does that sound like the one? Does that sound like a relationship? It took me some time to get over this, but eventually I realized that with that lack of information, she was just pretending to be what I wanted. This as my first experience with this level of deceit from a woman. A lot of times they'll pretend to be what you want. Girl likes a guy, or for whatever reason she sets her sights on a guy. She'll be a lot of times what he wants to be. It's amazing. It was about 12 months later that she emailed me out of nowhere and invited me over to her house and promised to explain everything. I drove a couple hours to this house meeting in a neighboring city. He says, smack, I know. At the time, I thought I'd finally get some closure and work out why she left when things were seemingly fine. You shouldn't have got over there. You should have been like, hey, you dropped off the face of the earth. You can come to me. Take a freaking taxi or something. Okay, I'm not going to come pick you up or drive 2 hours away for you. The thing was, there were all sorts of, he says here, the thing was, there were all sorts of family photographs and none of them were of her. In fact, it was very clearly somebody else's house. I can't really recall the excuses she gave me that night, but they were about as believable as you'd expect. Paired with the house not really being hers, I decided it was time to get out of there. But not before she tried to sleep with me again. I declined and haven't seen her since. Some more shady behavior. But good for you for finally getting some sense and saying this situation's screwed up. I'm out of here. As time went on, I completely changed my attitude towards women and became more focused on my grind. Good for you. I read a lot of philosophy books, and eventually in about my mid-20s, RP content started coming into my life. I hadn't been fooled since, but that's only the beginning of the story. Yeah, now we're getting the real good stuff, guys. Glad you stuck with me. He says, in my development kick, I moved overseas to attend college. Before I did so, I packed up a lot of my old stuff into storage, including some of the letters this woman had given me. Less of a memento and more of a reminder of what women were capable of. I completely forgot about her existence until I returned to my country several years later. What I tell you guys, they always come back, or something involving them will always come back into your life years later. Always. I get messaged randomly by a guy on Facebook some 5 years later. He says, did you sleep with my girlfriend? Now it turns out that this guy is, surprise, surprise, the guy who dropped off the woman to my house. He was literally dropping his girlfriend off to go F another guy, and neither he nor I were any the wiser. How could this guy be dropping her off at your house? That's what I know. What did she possibly tell him that he was dropping her off? You know, a lot of you guys are going to think this part's bullshit. And I'll admit there are parts of me that think this element's bullshit. But the reality is I believe this guy. I just think that she was such a good liar and so manipulative and found some excuse to tell her boyfriend at the time he's dropping her off at some 19-year-old's house. Some bullshit. She probably said that this is one of my girlfriend's house and this is her younger brother or something like that. This guy didn't know. He was literally dropping his girlfriend off to F another guy, and neither and I were the wiser. He'd been looking into infidelity of his fiancée of something like 8 years. They owned a house together and had pets, etc. Basically, he was in deep. Unfortunately for him, he was also a nice and very naive guy, even more than my 19-year-old self, it seemed. We spoke for ages and matched up the exact timeline as best we could. He told me her real name, and basically everything she told me was a complete lie. I told you from the get-go, she has a guy, boyfriend, fiancé, husband. I'm sure you all saw that immediately. But why was she so focused on the hooking up all the time, particularly without condoms? I'm sure you all guessed to get pregnant. But why? She told me about siblings that didn't exist. Real weird shit. When I told him she pretty much only ever came over for the sex, he asked me if I could prove it. Like I would make this shit up for a laugh 5 years later. That's when I remembered I still had my stuff in storage, so I went and dug out the letters. The best part was she spoke about the future, the sex being the best, the works, and signed her first name, which she didn't lie about. The guy asked to meet me. Says, I'm not going to lie, I felt horrible for not realizing I was the second guy. I'd unknowingly been sharing this guy's girlfriend. No condom. It made me want to do anything I could do to help this guy out and get out if he planned on it. I consider the fact that this guy might also kick my teeth in, but I agreed to meet with him in a very public place and with one of my boys waiting in the car. Good for you for trying to redeem yourself by giving this guy all the information that he needs to hopefully kick this life of his to the curb. And also smart of you to realize maybe I'm going to have one of my bros nearby in case this guy gets violent. You were taking a risk, but you're redeeming yourself. But the thing is, you didn't know. You know, younger, you should have known. But then again, you were young. You had this material. If you were your age now and this is going on, and didn't know, that'd be something else. We talked for ages, and I gave him the letter. The guy thanked me, and honestly, had we met in other circumstances, I think we would have made great friends. By this stage, the guy was rather successful in his field, good-looking, but short, and clearly a good man. But that was my part in this over. So I just hope that the letter provides some proof that may protect him even a little as he escaped the hole that he was in. I did check the woman on Facebook once he told me her real name, and you'd be happy to know that she was 32 years old, going on 50 in the face department. I don't know what happened to her, but I've seen better heads on men on a man's urinal. I wonder if she smoked or did drugs or something, and that way it impacted her facial features. Or it could have been bad genetics. And here come the sirens again. It says the boyfriend hadn't said it, but it was all too obvious that she was trying to get pregnant for me and raise the kid with him. I'm the tall, more attractive version of the boyfriend. In hindsight, I should have thought it odd that all the compliments she gave me were about my bone structure or the shape of my eyebrows. Some real random shit that I just brushed off while getting my sausage shined. You were probably thinking you can compliment my jawbones and my elbows, my bone structure all you want. Just keep on sucking, honey. It says here the boyfriend was listed as in a relationship with her the last I saw. I'm pretty sure they both blocked me shortly after. But I did see him a few years later around town with another woman. So I hope that was a new girl not a sister or something. I like to think that he got out, and I'm glad that he at least looked into this before marrying her. Okay, so he wasn't married to her, thank God. But it could have been, what's the word? I can't think of it. You live together for a common law marriage. Hopefully he didn't get hammered by the common law marriage rules. It says, by now some of you are probably wondering if I even asked him whether they had kids. Well, around 25 years old, I discovered that I am infertile. My life was only spared because of something other might see as a curse. Go figure. I now live overseas. You'll never see me with the same girl for more than a year. In fact, I won't go near women from the West at all. Marriage and kids are off the table. Life is great, and somehow I feel like the insufferable CUNT is at least partly to thank. To all the young guys out there, you're lucky if you found this content before you've had a woman selfishly end up your life. I dodged a literal bullet, and I pray that you actually listen to these stories, and when the time comes, you trust your gut and not your feelings. Thank you, SSM. Well, bro, that was a crazy story, but that was a good one. And you learned a lot, and you redeemed yourself by at least providing that guy the information, and thank God he didn't marry that crazy chick. But guys, there you go. This is why I do what I do. Guarantee this story, some young brothers out there are going to listen to this story, and this can be maybe their first video ever that changes their life, or will just reinforce some things they already suspected and will help them making big mistakes and getting conned by somebody, you know? And it's just unfortunate how things are. And notice how he said, I live overseas, and I will not date Western women because of... And it doesn't mean you're not going to have a deceitful gals in the East. Let's be honest. Female nature is female nature anywhere around the world, and male nature is male nature anywhere around the world. But the attitude, and not to mention the impact of the feminist movement, hasn't dug its ugly claws at a lot of gals, typically what I hear in Eastern Europe, and certainly in many parts of Asia, particularly Southeast Asia. You got to be careful, of course, but it's not the same as here in the West. And anybody actually wonders why every day more and more guys are like, there is no way I'm getting married. Now when I know what I know, with the marriage laws and the family courts and the attitudes and all these stories I hear about. And the funny thing is, guys like me that have channels that either report on news from around the world that support men, personal stories, we're considered to be the bad guy because we're getting guys not want to be in relationships, not want to get married and all that. We're the bad guys for exposing the truth. Isn't that amazing how that works? But I will keep doing what I do every day until either I drop dead or I lose my voice permanently or YouTube cuts me off, to help guys out there. That's my purpose. Everybody has their purpose, the thing that they live for and all that. This is my purpose. This is why I crank out 2, 3, sometimes 4 videos a day. And you guys are awesome because you guys keep sending me content. So keep them coming, guys. Keep sending me your personal stories or good articles or crazy stories. I don't care. I will find use for it somehow in one of my channels. Which, by the way, if you haven't done so already, definitely take a moment and subscribe to my other channels. They Did What for crazier stories, and SSM Clips for quick little stories here, 2 minutes here, 3 minutes there. Definitely good when you're on the run. And the more subscribers I get, the more YouTube will realize, hey, this guy's growing, and more people will notice this, will be recommended, and I can help spread the word, and you can help things out. And also, of course, sending this to all your friends and family, or the family that will want to hear it. All right, guys, that's it for today. You know the drill. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.